In a world overrun with the fake, delusional, and disingenuous, he stands as a beacon of truth. He is Abuki Cabal. You are listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for everybody continuing to sub. I've lost a few here. Looks like this one that I'm doing tonight was actually at the somewhat request of, I think, some of the ones that I've lost, because I think they were putting a lot of negative comments down in my comment section. And one of them was regarding my disregard for Dr. Robert Malone. And I want to say Dr. John. Anyway, Dr. John is, I can't remember what his last name is, but he's one of the ones that I actually post up a lot of his content in shares with my page. So I share everybody's information as well as medical professionals' concerns about the vaccines, so that you get a well-rounded review of what people are thinking who are in the field. Excuse me. So I kept getting inundated with this Dr. Robert Malone. So I mean, as you can see here, Dr. Malone, he says that he invented the messenger RNA vaccines. That's not true. We'll go over that. But he was also recently permanently banned from Twitter for stating that Pfizer messenger RNA vaccines do more damage than good, and he wasn't able to produce any kind of factual information as to why he was making these claims. He definitely gets my snake oil man there in the right corner there. He's definitely a snake oil guy. He sounds like he's a bit pissed off about where he was in the group of people who was actually doing research leading up to the invention of messenger RNA vaccines, which can be used for all manner of things, which we will see more uses of these things to fight things like cancer, other genetic abnormalities, as well as other ways to utilize these messenger RNA vaccines to heal other ailments. So the other aspect of it, the development of messenger RNA vaccines was a collaborative effort that Robert Malone contributed to, but he wasn't the sole inventor. And we'll go into that. And, I realize a lot of people are not familiar with, a lot of things with regard to research papers, but I'm going to go over a few of those things so that you realize why certain things are the way they are with these papers. So here recently, Dr. Malone was invited on the Joe Rogan Experience. And I have a full transcript of the interview here, which I will put down in the description, where Dr. Malone, they even have itemized down here the number of times that he said what he said. I would play some of it, but I don't want to get into any strikes But it even has down, itemized how many times that he said certain words, all the way down, you just go down to each, time that he, said certain words, certain keywords to, to do certain things to cause people to, be concerned about certain things. I mean, he's talking about, efforts to suppress the use of hydrochloroquine and ivermectin, and that it gives you the times when he said it, which, all of this has been disputed, not only here in the United States, but all over the world. Says that at 3148. Okay. He says that there are 140 studies that show natural immunity is better than vaccine induced immunity. Another, this is what we call instilling doubt, and I will, I'll kind of talk about how, all you have to do is to, one of the things that they teach us when we're in school, whether you be medical professionals, nurses, whatever, you cannot go into a room looking as if you're not sure of yourself or your abilities, because your patients will pick up on that. I mean, and, as a researcher, if you go out and you are saying things like this with no evidence to support your claims, I mean, you're a medical / scientific researcher. So you can't make claims like that because you are beholden to a certain group of your peers who basically that's like a death sentence for you. Because if you make these false claims, you get into Coopville, and then you lose your reputable, status in the community. Okay, so let's go through a few other things that he's talking about. Financial incentives for hospitals to report COVID deaths. I don't know how he comes up with this. I mean, he's, I don't know how he would even be privy to that type of information. I mean, that's not even his, he's not a practicing doctor. I mean, he's not working in that capacity, but we'll go over that. Okay. He's talking about trusted news initiative and coordinating efforts to suppress information about vaccines. Okay. You got to prove that as well. Myocarditis in a study out of Hong Kong. Okay, that's fine. But if that study comes out and it shows that, then it has to be peer reviewed, and that you still cannot get around peer review with regard to any scientific paper. You can't just put a paper out and say something without it being duplicated. Not just once, but several times. That study might be duplicated. In a couple of different countries before it reaches a point to where it is considered to be reputable. Okay, so let's see, vaccines and menstrual cycles. Okay, talks about myocarditis again, brain fog, which is one of the one of the conditions that you see associated with long COVID. Okay, he talks about spike proven as a token. I mean, as a toxin. I don't know. Maybe they were trying to say spike protein. He talks about T cell suppression after receiving the shot. I've never heard of that. Okay, our government is out of control. What does that have to do with science? Excuse me. Anytime you hear a scientific guy getting into politics, then, that's a red flag, because usually scientific people don't concern themselves with politics, and the only money that they're concerned about is getting funding for their research. They're not worried about, Hospitals getting this or getting that. They don't even concern themselves with that, because all they worry about is getting that funding, writing those papers in order to receive the funding that they need, and proposals and whatnot for them to be able to get what they need in order to conduct their scientific research. Okay, he talks about Pfizer. He seems to have a grudge against Pfizer, but we'll go into that too. Mass information psychosis, which is, this is something that people have taken issues with him, because that's nothing. He just made up a word, and threw it out there, and he's getting a lot of flack behind it. Okay, if you have natural immunity, you are at a higher risk if you get the vaccine, which that is not true. All of the papers are actually showing that if you do have an immunity or an immune response to COVID-19 and you get the booster, you have a higher degree of protection. You even have a higher degree after you have been infected, and you are you receive a shot after that. You have an even higher immune response. So that's been shown in multiple papers. Psychological damage to children. I don't know where that's proven. I've read some papers here where they even looked into that, and that was not necessarily the case. Okay, here he is talking about mandates and defeat mandates and and things like that, and talking about things that shouldn't a person who is of scientific background shouldn't have a problem with. But I find that this guy is talking about a lot of things that people that are usually in that community don't concern themselves with. So that gives me pause, but like I said, you can go down and we could go down through the whole thing. I don't necessarily want to do that because it was a pretty long interview, but I will leave it there so that you guys can check that on your own. So let's take a look at his his papers that he's been involved with. Okay, Dr. Robert Malone. Okay, inventor of the messenger RNA vaccines. This is what he's apparently he's done this by saying that, because he really can't post that, but he's putting it on there. He puts on there inventor of DNA vaccines, biologicals, and gene therapy, but he's coming out against every one of these things that he supposedly pioneered in, which, ask yourself, does that make very much sense that you're going to come out against things that you invented? And if these things are so dangerous and they're damaging people so much, why did you invent them? Why are you so proud of conducting research into these things that aren't beneficial in any way medically and causing all of this damage? Okay, so let's go down through here, and if you look at these papers, okay, and you look at this is important. I don't think some people who may not know this, the order in which the names appear on a scientific paper indicate the order of significance of the research contributed with regard to the paper. Okay, so if you go down here and all of these papers that he's on, I don't see him first on any one of them. And if you're the inventor or you're the primary contributor to the research, okay, on dexamethasone, enhancement of gene expression after direct hepatic DNA injection, he was the first. Okay, that's one. Okay. The other ones, he's either second or further down the line on in the research. Okay, Zika's fetal neuropathogenesis, etiology of viral syndrome. I don't see him on here, but he has that in a list of his accomplishments. I don't know if that's oh, here it is. He's on here, J Glasspool - Malone. So, and he's down there. So he had to share his spot on that one with another scientist. I'm not sure, how that contribution was broke up like that, but there you have it. Cholesterol enhanced catatomic liposome mediated DNA transfection of human respiratory epithelial cells. Okay, he's on this one. He was the last person on there. Okay, so as of 1 through 20, I don't know how many other ones he's got here, but okay. All right, he's first there on COVID-19, famotidine, histamine, mast cells, and mechanisms. Okay, and that's where one of the guys was talking about, slipping my mind right now, but if I wasn't thinking about it, I'd be able to tell you. But anyway, yes, these are effective in preventing COVID symptoms in people who are infected. Gosh, slipping my mind. That's why we carry reference materials all the time. Had to break one of them out. Sorry. Anyway, I'm gonna waste my time. Anyway, I will look back into that, and I'll address that in the comments. But it's just kind of slipped my mind as far as the action that it inhibits with these drugs here. Okay, let's see what else. Improved method for removal of. Okay, well, let's just go down. I'm going to continue going down what we're doing. Okay, he was first in DNA vaccines for eliciting a mucosal immune response. Okay, so he's got that. Okay. And clearly he's been involved with quite a few aspects of vaccines in various capacities. Okay. Okay, here again, we've got high dose famotidine adjunct therapy shows significant clinical response. Yeah. Okay, so this was probably the early days when we were testing all kinds of things to see what would work as far as trying to inhibit the negative actions of and effects of the infection. Okay, dealt with Zika virus. Okay, here's one: present and future status of gene therapy. Okay, he did a paper on that. Okay, he did a sole paper on more than just heartburn. Does famotidine effectively treat patients with COVID-19? Right. Okay. And those are proton pump inhibitors that were being used. Okay. Okay, so here we got proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs, are medicines that work to reduce the amount of stomach acids made by glands in the lining of the stomach. Okay, so that's what those are, and you generally, and they're used to usually treat GERD. yeah, basically, they were using famotidine and using that to try to stop some of the effects of the infection with COVID. Okay, so like I was talking about the order in which the names are listed on a paper, and here you have it here. You can Google that, but I Googled it for you. The sequence of names of the authors to an article must reflect the relative scientific or professional contribution of the authors, irrespective of their academic status. The general rule is the name of the principal contributor should come first, with subsequent names in the order of decreasing contribution. Okay? So that's why that is significant there. Okay? So, yeah, we'll move on from that. But if you guys want to look at all of the papers he was involved in, and I want to say that you can also hit the papers. You can also read the papers and what they came up with, if you're interested in that. But it looks like he's been involved with 90 papers. So over 90 papers. That's a pretty good run there, and it has the dates when the papers were written, and you can go through that. That's on Google Scholar. Okay, so I will add that to the description as well. So we'll deal with why he was banned from Twitter, and we're starting to see that a lot. Even YouTube is starting to ban content creators who are posting misinformation and information that is false and easily proven to be false. So the individual who basically, threw this name out, I think he unsubscribed to my channel, and because he felt like I wasn't addressing the people that he felt like I should be addressing. But this is the second or either third person I think he asked me about and why these people are so concerned about the vaccine and why we shouldn't use it. And here we go. All right, Dr. Robert Malone was permanently banned from Twitter for stating that Pfizer messenger RNA vaccines do more damage than good. For tweeting that the Pfizer messenger RNA vaccine causes more damage than benefit, Dr. Robert Malone, the alleged developer of messenger RNA vaccines, has been permanently barred from using the social media platform Twitter. Eventually, Dr. Malone, who garnered over 500,000 followers before his suspension, was banned when he tweeted the following tweet, which reads as follows. According to Pfizer inoculations for COVID-19, they are doing more harm than good. According to Pfizer's 6-month report data, its COVID-19 vaccinations result in more disease and mortality than it prevents the general population. A review of Pfizer trial problems in terms of design and implementation is also included. Must read. I don't think that's part of that. I think they snuck that in there for clickbait. It is not the first time Dr. Malone has been banned from a major social media network. According to what you may remember, Dr. Malone was barred and blocked from YouTube and LinkedIn in June after speaking out against the dangers of experimental vaccinations. Dr. Malone claims that a video of his was removed from YouTube after he warned about hazards related to the COVID-19 vaccination. During his television interview, Dr. Malone said he was not discouraging the use of vaccinations, but rather was attempting to provide people with as much accurate information as possible regarding the hazards associated with it. According to his website, Dr. Malone claimed to be the creator of messenger RNA vaccines and DNA vaccines, which is utilized in the coronavirus vaccinations supplied by pharmaceutical firms such as Pfizer and Moderna. He claimed to have created the messenger RNA vaccines while working at the Salk Institute in 1987 and 1988. While working at the Institute, Dr. Malone was a pioneer in vitro RNA transfection and in vivo RNA transfection in frog embryos and mice. In other words, if there is one person who is uniquely suited to talk about the COVID-19 vaccine, it will be Dr. Malone. Since then, YouTube and LinkedIn have banned and restricted Dr. Malone from airing his worries about the vaccinations in a podcast, according to the doctor himself. The next day, Dr. Malone claimed that a video of him had been removed from the YouTube after he warned about hazards related to COVID-19 vaccinations. During his television interview, Dr. Malone said that he was not discouraging the use of vaccinations, but rather attempting to provide people with as much information. Okay, so they doubled up on what they said. Wow, these people need to edit this stuff. Okay, the government is not upfront with us about those dangers. One of my main worries, therefore, I believe that individuals have the freedom to choose whether or not to receive the vaccination, particularly when these are experimental vaccines, Dr. Malone stated, pointing out that the vaccines have not been legally licensed and are instead being delivered under an emergency use authorization. Dr. Malone went on to say that this is a basic right that has to do with clinical research ethics. Consequently, I'm concerned since I'm aware that there are dangers. However, we do not have access to the data. And the data that has been collected has not been recorded systematically enough to allow us to estimate the risk appropriately to make a rational conclusion. We do not have the knowledge that we need. Okay, so you have to ask yourself this. If we don't have the knowledge, then how can he claim that it's dangerous? If we don't have the data, then what is he basing his problems with the vaccines on? Is this a feeling? Is this something that he's just, what information does he have? Can he provide us with some information that shows us that we should not trust these manufacturers and the government with regard to the vaccine and COVID-19? That's my question. See, because I have to look at this from a logical standpoint. I can't go by, what if and I could develop superpowers if I take this vaccine and I could grow gills and all of that kind of stuff. I have to have data. I have to have hard data in order for me to come out and tell you that you shouldn't take something. And this person, as a researcher, has to have data. You can't say anything without data. You cannot post a paper up without data. So who else, is willing to put their reputations and their livelihoods on the line, their educational background on the line, based on making a statement without any data? Apparently, Dr. Malone feels that is a great place to plant his flag. I don't see how you can do that as a person of science. I don't think that I'm being, that I have flawed judgment regarding that. I just don't see this as a logical place for him to try this. And apparently, Joe Rogan is becoming a magnet for these type of people. When they get on the show, they come out of every direction with all of these, these claims about this and that, and this could do this and that could do that, but I don't have any data, it's a little disheartening, and I don't understand how these people are able to come on and do the things that they do and still continue to hold medical licenses and have any sort of credibility. But that's just me. Okay. Dr. Malone further pointed out that no substantial risk-benefit analysis is performed on the questions of vaccinations. Dr. Malone continues, one of my main problems is that we use the terms like risk-benefit analysis in a casual manner as if it were a complex scientific discipline. It is not the case. Normally, by this point, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would have completed those risk-benefit studies, which would have been database and science-based in nature. They are not at the moment. I don't know how I can say that. If he hasn't seen the data, how does he know that it's not data-based and not science-based? Okay, that's not all, however. Dr. Malone said earlier today on Twitter that he had been locked out of LinkedIn and terminated his account. Stay tuned with us for more information and news. Okay, that's one, and I'll add that one in the description as well. Okay, here's Psychologically, and it deals with claims that Dr. Malone made, and we'll go down through those. Okay, this was written July the 13th, 2021. Okay. And you see the authors there. Okay. A man by the name of Dr. Robert Malone has recently found fame through alternative media outlets. Also, a red flag for me. Why would you have to go to alternative media outlets instead of going to mainstream media outlets and other places where scientific concerns are aired? There are all kinds of publications and places where he could have had seminars with his peers, with other medical personnel, and he could have aired out his grievances about this and contributed to a resolution of his concerns and of potential problems. But that's not the route that he took, which is a red flag for me. Okay. Through alternative media outlets, claiming to be the RNA vaccine inventor and spouting out a mishmash of misleading claims. Malone is a scientist. In '89, he co-wrote a paper titled Catatonic Liposome-Mediated RNA Transfection, while his work on RNA transfection might have been important. His claim to be the inventor of RNA vaccines is shaky, to say the least. In a recent lengthy interview with the factual dubious Epoch Times, Malone made a number of claims about treatments of COVID-19 as well as COVID-19 vaccines. Many of these claims were misleading rather than downright false. They sometimes have a nugget of truth in them, a perennial conundrum for the fact checker. We looked at a few of them here. Okay. False. Dr. Robert Malone invented messenger RNA vaccines. It is Dr. Caitlin Carrico and her collaborator, Dr. Drew Weissman, who are more commonly credited with laying the groundwork for messenger RNA vaccines. In 1989, Malone published a paper titled Catatonic Liposome-Mediated RNA Transfection. While Malone's research may have been important, scientific breakthroughs don't always boast a sole inventor. Instead, they come out through the work of many. Okay. They also have a link here that you can click to that will basically go into that a little bit further. But for the sake of time, I will not do that. True. In the US, the only COVID-19 vaccines available are genetic vaccines. Okay. That is true. As of July 2021, there are 3 COVID-19 vaccines authorized for the use in the United States. These are the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the vaccines from Pfizer BioNTech, the vaccines from Moderna, the Pfizer BioNTech and Moderna vaccines both use messenger RNA technology. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine uses double-stranded DNA. Okay. Also a link here that goes into a more lengthy explanation of that. Okay. Here's one that is partially true. If used early enough, anti-inflammatories can treat COVID-19. Excuse me. All right. Anti-inflammatories are used to treat COVID-19 in hospitals, but they cannot always alleviate COVID-19 symptoms by themselves. It is also not always advisable for patients to take anti-inflammatories at home. There is also no healthcare authority that recommends taking anti-inflammatories to prevent COVID-19. Okay, misleading. In India, promising studies on ivermectin were stopped for political reasons. There is no evidence that this move was, as Malone has alleged, political, or what the change in regime comments means exactly. Malone did not expand on these particular comments. In India, healthcare authorities have been using ivermectin during the COVID-19 pandemic in the hopes that the drug would reduce the severity of COVID-19 or prevent severe cases altogether. However, the most recent guidelines show that healthcare authorities no longer recommend ivermectin. As India Today reported, the Union Health Ministry and Family Welfare Directorate General of Health Services has issued revised guidelines to stop the use of ivermectin and doxycycline in COVID-19 treatment. Okay. Now, it's not going to tell you this here, but ivermectin has stopped viral processes in vitro, which means in a petri dish. Listen, guys and gals, bleach works to inhibit viral replication in a petri dish, but it won't work inside you. Okay. So you can't use that. There are a lot of things that might inhibit viral replication in a dish, in a petri dish, outside of the body. Okay. That's why you can't use that. And doxycycline, which is an antibiotic, has let me stress this even further, no effect on viruses. None. And we know that for a fact. We've known that for years, forever. Okay. So these guys were using any and everything because they were afraid. That's why they were doing it. And all you got to do was go and Google, what kind of problems they were having. I personally talked to an individual who was living there and told me how bad it was. We've discussed it. I also work with several physicians who are from India and Pakistan. And I'm going to tell you, there is, it was really bad at one point, so bad that it was terrible. I can't even put into words the cremations, the level of bodies all over the place, the dead, the sick. It was frightening to them, So let's move on here. Okay. Misleading. Congratulation problems are being seen. Oh, sorry. Wow, glasses. Coagulation problems are being seen with the messenger RNA vaccines. Coagulation problems are being seen associated with COVID-19. So, I don't know where he gets that. But okay, let's go on into it. A team of researchers recently found evidence that COVID-19 vaccines that use adenovirus vectors like the ones in AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson can trigger a rare but sometimes fatal blood clotting reaction called vaccine-induced immune thrombotic thrombocytopenia. Okay. However, Malone did not mention that this side effect is extremely rare and that serious blood clots are more likely to occur during COVID-19 infection than after a COVID-19 vaccine. I didn't even have to read it to be able to tell you that. That's part of what we see and what we treat, to try to, lessen the damage and the effects while a person is infected. So further information is there. Okay, false. V-Safe at the CDC is an outdated, antiquated system. Okay, in December 2020, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention launched V-Safe. The smartphone technology is designed, and how can you say it's an antiquated system when it was implemented in 2020? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's move on. The smartphone technology is designed to enhance several well-established vaccine safety monitoring systems like vaccine adverse events reporting systems, or VAERS. The app was built less than a year ago and provides people with technology to report side effects easily and in real time and get access to healthcare. This helps officials gather information on how the vaccines are performing and monitor people regularly. More information on the VAERS system. That's how they keep up with deaths and everything associated with the vaccines. Easy to get to. Nobody's hiding it from you. You can go get it. And also here recently, there has been a Freedom of Information inquiry in order to get information associated with the vaccines and to release it to the public. It has been granted by a judge, and we should see all of that information soon. But all of these claims without the information are disingenuous, because if you don't have the information, you can't say what the information says without seeing the information. Keep that in mind. Okay. All right. False. Vaccines are not important for adolescents because they have a very low probability of disease or death from COVID. False. That was what was thought to be the case, but even in Omicron, we're starting to see a lot more children infected than we did under Delta and under the original strain. Children and adolescents can contract severe cases of COVID, sometimes leading to death. Vaccinations can protect them. More information here. Links are available. I will put this in the description as well. I feel like this is important information. Let's move on. Misleading. The lab leak theories is likely to be true. Okay, this is where everybody's thinking that there is a leak, and we'll just go through that. The theory about the lab leak is still just an idea, a hypothesis that has not been proven. That is true. A lot of people who have worked with viruses and who have worked with the protective measures for protecting against viruses and biologicals. I did that in the military. I was a nuclear, biological, and chemical officer, responsible for my company's readiness. Also was a part of my battalion's command structure in that. So out here, I also helped to set up the COVID units and to set up the airtight protective barriers and whatnot. I've been doing it ever since the initial outbreak of the disease, and I've done it for several different facilities. And I'll just leave that right there. So, The lab leak theory. Okay, so the theory has become more plausible for many, partially because no evidence has emerged to back alternative theories, but there is no substantive evidence for this one either. The most likely alternative, zoonotic transmission, when the disease jumps from animals to humans, is also extremely difficult to track, as it could have happened anywhere. Okay. More on this aspect of the story. China is not letting people in, the normal scientific personnel in, to try to track the origins of the disease. Also, I saw an interview with members of MI6 and some other intelligence community individuals made statements where they said that basically that it is a probability that happened, but we cannot prove that that's what happened. So yeah, who knows whether that will ever come out or not. It kind of looks that way, things appear to have happened in a way that leads one to speculate as to how this came out, why it came out, where it came out, all these things, but it can't be proven. So for him to come out and say that he knows for a fact how it started, he can't say that. Let's go on. Okay, misleading. Medics are gaslighting patients who present with positive vaccination syndrome. The social media is censoring their post. Okay, if you don't have any data, how can you say that? And he hasn't provided any data. Where is he getting that from? And I don't know what more I can say about that, but let's read it. Medical gaslighting is a term used to describe situations in which medical professionals undermine or dismiss patients' syndromes. While there is limited information or limited evidence that medics are intentionally gaslighting patients regards to their supposed post-COVID vaccination syndrome, some long COVID patients have struggled to get doctors to believe their symptoms. Okay, long COVID and post-vaccination syndrome are two different things, two totally different things. And long COVID, yes, we've known about that for quite some time. I had patients initially when it was being reported that patients couldn't be reinfected with the disease. I had a patient who had it twice already, and now and you can go back and you can look at some panels I was on and some of my earlier stuff, and you'll see that I talked about that. Okay. Long COVID is definitely a thing, and people are having prolonged symptoms. People are having damage to their organs. I did the last show on the effects on the brain that they're starting to find. We're also starting to see some cardiac damage. We're starting to see some liver and kidney damage. I talked about how they were finding, cells from different organs in places where they were not supposed to be. So, the cytokine system that some are having that causes damage systemically throughout the body. All of that is documented, and people who treat COVID and are seeing these patients are seeing this, and have been talking about this for at least the last year, if not longer. Okay, misleading. The World Health Organization announced that it is important to wear masks because none of the vaccines prevents infection. Okay. Malone misconstrued various World Health Organization statements. A spokesperson has said that they do not know to what extent vaccinations protect against transmission and urged everyone to wear a mask. And that's not all they said, to wear a mask and to socially distance. But we continue to see people who are wearing just face coverings and not masks that are rated to prevent viral infection. You can't just wear the blue mask. You have to wear, and if you do wear a blue mask, you have to double those up, and or wear an N95, which is rated to protect you against that. You still have to socially distance. You still have to wash your hands. You still have to do the basic things to keep yourself from being infected. And we are now starting to see breakthrough cases, where it used to be 98 to 95% of the people that we were seeing in the emergency rooms and that were being hospitalized were people who weren't vaccinated. Now we're starting to see some breakthrough cases, and that's probably due to the mutation of the spike proteins on Omicron. So, people have been warning about this for the longest, and now it's upon us, and we've also got another one with more mutations to the spike proteins than Omicron, and they still don't know a lot about that one. So, there is a large pool of people who are unvaccinated, who are the perfect breeding ground for mutated COVID. And the people who are being infected, who have had the vaccine and who didn't have their boosters, are having a better time at getting over the virus than people who are not and who haven't been vaccinated. That is a fact. And, you can go wherever you want to go and see that, and, the facts are staring you right there in the face if you're just willing. If you're just willing to read the data and interpret the data from an objective point of view. Okay. False. The utility of dexamethasone is very limited. Yeah, that's false. Dexamethasone is used as an anti-inflammatory to help with pain and inflammatory processes associated with COVID infections. Okay, multiple healthcare authorities disagree with Dr. Robert Malone's assertion. Dexamethasone is widely recommended for hospitalized COVID-19 patients. Any fool can tell you that. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. I should stay professional. I apologize. Okay. Misleading. Canada is enticing and coercing children to get vaccinated by offering them free ice cream. Several one-day vaccination pop drives have been organized across Canada where ice cream is given as an incentive. No one is coerced into taking the vaccine through a wide-scale program. Okay. All right, there was a correction in the paper, and it says a previous version of this article stated that Malone wrote a paper titled Catatonic Liposome-Mediated RNA Transfection. We have now certified that Malone co-wrote this paper, and I already showed you guys that. That was actually one of the papers that I read. Okay. And here is another article that talks about and fact checks his claims to be the inventor of the messenger RNA vaccines. It's inaccurate. The development of the messenger RNA vaccines is due to the work of hundreds of researchers, one of which is Robert Malone. Together with his co-authors, Malone contributed early evidence that messenger RNA could be delivered and produce proteins in cells. However, because crucial hurdles to develop the messenger RNA vaccines were resolved by many researchers, Malone cannot be claimed as the inventor of this vaccine technology. Okay? And they go into a lot of his background And they give references down here for you to go ahead and you can look at it. But I've given you tons of information and reference materials to look at. Here is yet another one where they tell you that he did not invent messenger RNA. So I say all of this to say what? Say all this to say that you have an individual, yet another individual that has gone on to Joe Rogan and has basically said that he was responsible for this and for that, and he delves into the political aspects of it, a true scientist is not going to get into the political aspects of something like of a treatment, because politics has nothing, zero, to do with how you treat a patient. You treat a patient off of an assessment of that patient and the available treatment methods by which you are going to alleviate, whatever ailment that you are trying to cure or to lessen the negative effects of, in order for that patient to have a speedy recovery, if that's possible. So here you have a man who's got a track record of lying to you and telling half truths and going out and sensationalizing something that is basically killing people, and people who are out in the field who are trying desperately to try to keep people alive and to keep you from being sick. Some of you people need to take inventory of how many people you see out there that are sick and what's going on with them. I mean, I'm hearing people dying every day, and I'm treating people right now. I got, had 8 2 weeks ago. I got six now, and lost one of those. I already talked about that. The situation is pretty dire, and when people are out here doing this type of stuff, it makes our jobs harder. And Dr. Robert Malone gets my snake oil stamp of approval. And, I appreciate you guys listening, and be careful who you listen to. And, check out people's claims. If you see a person on Joe Rogan, man, you got to go and you got to look that name up. You got to look up those credentials and see, what this guy's been smoking. See if this guy is respected by his peers. See if his peers, conduct themselves in the same way that he does. I don't see very many scientists going out and doing the type of thing that this guy's doing. And politics is unfortunately polluting places in our society that it never did before, to the extent that it's doing today. And we really have to be careful, and we have to protect ourselves and protect each other, and also still be mindful of the history of treachery with regard to our medical care in our community as Black folks. I do understand that, and I respect that. And I respect anybody who looks at every aspect of a problem and makes their decision based off of logic and not off of feelings and shoulda, coulda, woulda, and this might happen. And, things, just making statements like, based off of nothing. I mean, you haven't read anything. You just heard somebody else say something. And then, you're basically, staking your life on somebody else's, information that you don't know is either true or reputable, or where they got it from in the first place. And a lot of these people who are on Fox and some of these other places and giving you this information, they don't tell you. DeSantis has been immunized. He's had his shots, his 2 shots, and his booster too. Trump had his booster, had his 2 shots too. He also got infected with COVID, not once, but twice. Okay. You got everybody at Fox News. 98% of their staff is immunized. And that's reported. All you got to do is just look it up. So everybody's telling you not to trust the process and not to trust doctors and not to trust nurses and all that stuff. These people have gotten their vaccines and they're wearing their face masks and telling people to stay away from them. But the general public out here that watches that crap, they're not doing it. So you got to ask yourself, why would these people do something that they're telling me not to do, that they're trying to instill fear and doubt in me so that I won't protect myself? And if you don't want to take the vaccine, fine. Wear a mask and social distance and wash your hands. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. You know? And you know, this running out here attacking people because, you know, they wear masks or because they said that they got the vaccine or whatever the case may be, that's crazy. You know, and now I'm hearing, I mean, hell, I was in the emergency room and I was talking to another nurse, and this guy, you know, he's actively, you know, saying things about, you know, the vaccine while he's administering to people, which is insane. You know, now I heard it because I'm one too, you know, but that's unprofessional and it's not based on science. You're in a profession that is based on science, but yet you don't embrace it, you know, and that just gives me pause. But, you know, I've talked long enough. I'm heading up on an hour now. So, you know, I appreciate you guys listening. I will be, I know people don't like it. I'm losing subs. Yeah. But if you don't like it, you know, hey, I'm sorry. I'm doing this to protect people, and I'm doing this to give people good information. And, you know, if I lose subs, so be it. I'm putting the information out there because I think it's important to put the information out there. I cannot just sit back and not do my duty as a medical professional to try to help people, because that means something to me. So, in between all of that, I will be hitting some other things that I'm interested in, but, you know, I will still keep reporting on this, and hopefully you guys will stick with me. If not, thanks for listening anyway. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I guess I better get some rest, man. It's for me to get out and go make a difference tomorrow. Thanks a lot, guys.
You are listening to Abuki Cabal, the analytical savage.
I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home.